All right, welcome everybody today to our March 24th, 2017 GEG Ohio Google User Group meeting. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. If you're watching this recorded in the future, I'm so glad you've been able to catch this as well. Even if it is not live, we appreciate you taking time to plug into this meeting. Real quick, a couple of quick housekeeping introduction type things. Hi, my name's Eric. I am a technology integration specialist here at Spark. Spark is an information technology center in Northeast Ohio, serving about 30 school districts. But in addition to what I do up here at Spark, I also help lead GEG Ohio, the Google Educator Group of Ohio. And so this particular meeting kind of serves both purposes. It's to support the schools that we directly work with here in Northeast Ohio with any of their Google needs, but it's also to support any school throughout the state of Ohio that is using Google Apps or interested in Google Apps. But at the same time, we really don't mind where you're from. So if you are not local to my area, and if you're even not in the state of Ohio, everybody's welcome. So no matter what state or country you're from, thanks for either joining us today or watching this recording in the future. We do these meetings typically once a month. Doesn't happen all the time, but usually shoot for once a month. Usually the third Friday of the month, a little bit off this month. We had a couple of conflicts, so fourth Friday this month, and typically from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can always find, though, when the meetings are going to be by visiting the website that I've mentioned a couple of times before we got started here, google.apps.spark.org/user group. That is the website where you'll have links for each of the meetings. So always check that to make sure you know the most accurate date in case we do need to move things around. I'll visit that site real quick here just to show that to you guys again, google.apps.spark.org/user group, Spark with 2 C's. That looks like this. This is the page that will come up. And you're going to see the agenda for the schedule for the year. So for example, here we have our March meeting, and there's a link to the live video, which obviously you're watching right now. And right here is the link to the meeting agenda, and that is a Google Doc link. You can always go back and catch any of the previous ones as well. Lots of great information. Now, sometimes we don't have meetings. Some odd months will occur. Sometimes we'll have a meetup instead. So like in February, we did not have a traditional meeting. Instead, we had a meetup at the Ohio Educational Technology Conference instead. All right. But anyway, just want to make sure everybody can get into that Google document because that is an editable document. You guys are welcomed and encouraged to add your own content to this Google document as we work through here today. So what are you going to find in the doc? Let's just get a couple things out of the way really quick here. We already did the welcome, so hi, you know me now. As far as important links, the only one I'm really going to point out to you right now is the sign-in form. We do have a very simple Google form under the important links section where we do ask you to please take a moment to sign in. If you give a click on that link, that should take you out to this Google form where you can put in your information, pick today's meeting date, March 24th, and talk about how you viewed this, whether you were here in person at Spark or if you were watching it as a Hangout online, which is perfectly fine either way. Happy to have folks in person and as well online. This information is used to send numbers to Google. They do ask us to let them know how many people attend our meetings. So it is helpful for me to be able to collect this information. The reason I collect your email address, though, is to send out certificates of attendance because this can work as a professional development meeting. And so you can turn those certificate of attendances into your LPDC for hours. So as I collect that information, I will also generate later on some certificates of attendance. So again, appreciate you guys filling that out if you would when you get a chance to do so. Even if you're watching this recorded, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to be watching the live one. You can watch it recorded and fill that out. Next up on our agenda is just some quick updates. We always like you to know how big the groups are at the moment. We run 2 websites, one just for the Spark area and one for all the state of Ohio. Currently 931 as of this morning in the Spark group, and we crossed over 2,000 in the Google Educator group. I think we did that during the Ohio Educational Technology Conference. Basically, let me go ahead and pull these up real quick. This is what the websites look like. So this is the GEG Ohio community. If you have not joined the community, I absolutely encourage you to do so. This is a Google community that you can join, and if you just want to lurk and read what other people are sharing, that's perfectly fine. Lots of folks will share neat ideas and resources and ask questions, but at the same time, I would encourage you, when you feel comfortable, go ahead and share as well. You can click up here to share information. You can put links and pictures and ask questions or share resources, and it's a great way to connect with, at the moment, over 2,000 educators around the state of Ohio. So please consider doing that. Next up in our agenda is upcoming events. The closest thing coming up right away for us is the iTip Ohio Summit. That is going to be in Kalahari again this year, which is in Sandusky, Ohio. They moved it back to there from Columbus because a little bit extra room there is a little bit more flexibility to hold it there, and that'll be May 1st and 2nd. I will be at that event, so I hope if you are there, I get a chance to see some of you folks in person and get a chance to catch up and hang out. So please attend that if you have not signed up for that yet. That's a great 2-day conference. And then thanks, somebody added in the Create conference. I appreciate that. That is in the Toledo area, and that is a wonderful conference as well, always in early June, and there's a link in there with information on that. If you guys have other upcoming events that you want to add to this, again, this is a perfect example. Do exactly what has been done here. Just type right into the document. People will be referencing this agenda for weeks to come, and so it is perfectly fine for you to add additional things in here even after the fact. I will keep this open in edit mode for at least a few days, and eventually I'll just switch it over to comment mode after that. All right, so that's the quick housekeeping stuff. Typically, what we do in our meetings is 2 main sections. We usually start off with a what's new in G Suite for Education. Try to catch you guys up on everything that's happened in the last month. After that, the second portion of the meeting is typically the Q&A and show and tell, where again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in here. If I can answer them, great. If not, some other person in the meeting hopefully will have the answer and be able to help us out. And then the show and tell is more sharing of cool resources, something you're doing in your district. So feel free to scroll down and fill in information there as well. That'd be awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the what's new in Google. Now, we did not have a February meeting that was recorded like this. Like I said, our February meeting was a meetup at the Ohio Educational Technology Conference. So we did not actually do the normal thing. It was more of a fun social type of a meetup. However, so much stuff happened in that month. I didn't want it to kind of get lost. So I did go ahead and still collect all of the updates together, and I put them out in a blog post at the start of this month. I am not going to try to cover everything from February and everything from March in this meeting, but I just didn't want you to lose these items and have them kind of fall through the cracks. So there is a link to the February updates here on my Control-Alt-Achieve blog. If you give a click on that link, that'll take you out to that specific blog post, which was the what's new in Google for February. If you scroll on down there, you'll see we had 24 new Google updates in February and 41 show and tell resources. The what's new, all of these we normally would have covered in our meeting, but I did just go ahead and put them all together in that blog post. So if I would encourage you to take a moment when you get a chance, look down through the February things in case you missed any of those. You might find that there was an update you did not realize had come out, and don't want to catch you by surprise when it shows up in your school and a teacher has a question about it. Below that was the show and tell section, which was really big last month. And again, obviously not going to go through these now, just let you know these were all of the cool update resources kind of things. Usually these are, I come across these from blog posts. So there's a lot of different bloggers I follow who share really neat, creative ways to use Google Apps. And that's what you're going to find through here. And so again, I know that's an awful lot to go through there. So just know that it is all available. That was the February dump of information. So just giving you a heads up on that. So let's go ahead though and move into March. So as far as March, the list isn't gigantic. It's not really big, but some pretty big stuff came out during the month. I'm going to go ahead and run through these. Some of them I'll probably just touch on very briefly. Others we'll spend a little bit more time taking a look at. At any point, if you guys have a question or a comment, please feel free to just type it in or highlight and use the little comment button on the side to add a comment over here. That would be fantastic. All right, so first thing, I won't even really go into any great detail on this, just there's always new Chromebooks coming out. So I went ahead and threw this link in here that HP is releasing a ruggedized Chromebook in April. We don't have a whole lot of information about it yet as far as pricing, but it looks like it's going to be something that fits that new niche we're trying to fill, which is number one, ruggedized. So it's durable, which is really important for schools. Number two, it is convertible. So this is going to be one of those Chromebooks that is also a touch screen Chromebook. So you can do the normal, use it as a laptop, but you can flip it around. It'll lay completely flat, and you can put it in all these different orientations. So this is going to be a touch screen Chromebook, and it is going to, of course, run Android apps like any of the more modern Chromebooks are doing. So this is going to run all the Chrome stuff, but it's going to run the entire Google Play Store as well for Android apps. What's a little bit different about it, and why I mentioned this, is my guess is, and again, I apologize, I don't have a price on this one. If anybody knows, as of this posting here, they did not have pricing yet for it, but they said it would be coming out in April, so we should know very soon. I'm hoping it's going to kind of fall in a little bit of a more affordable niche there. We've seen some really neat Chromebooks come out that are convertibles, but they've been a little bit more expensive, like the Samsung Chromebook Plus and the Asus Flip 2 that's come out, the new Asus one. Those have been falling in around $450 or $500, but they're more premium ones with all metal bodies and stuff like that. My guess is, hopefully this will fall more into that $250, $300 range. That is a lot more affordable for schools because they're not doing, an all metal body and stuff like that. So excited to see something that is kind of checking off all those boxes: ruggedized, touch screen, it's got a world-facing camera, Android apps, all of that stuff. So thought that one was worth mentioning. Let's keep it on our radar and see where that one comes in when we do get some pricing on it. Next up on the list, we've got a little announcement here from Google about some neat Google Classroom integrations. So here's the deal. Google has opened up the APIs, the application programming interface, for Google Classroom more and more, so that third-party companies can integrate with it more. And this article here talks about 3 of those sample integrations. And in each case, what it involves is being able to, for example, very quickly create accounts. So in this case, BrainPOP, a lot of people are familiar with BrainPOP. They now have an integration with Google Classroom that allows you to very easily create all of your BrainPOP student accounts by syncing them with Google Classroom. So if you've already got Google Classroom set up, and if you subscribe to BrainPOP, if you're not familiar with BrainPOP, it's the animated instructional videos with the little robot guy. It's Tim and Moby, and they're great. They're really neat. And the nice thing is, if you've got Classroom set up already, now you can just boom, create all your BrainPOP accounts right from your sync to your Google Classroom your classroom accounts that you've got set up. Same thing for Edulastic. Edulastic is a service that provides next generation assessments. So if you're thinking about like air testing or those states that do park testing, things like that, where you've got more next generation drag and drop type assessments, Edulastic provides a lot of those sort of assessments. They also can sync with Classroom, so you don't have to create double the accounts. And then the last one that gets mentioned is Little Sis. Now, Little Sis goes the other direction. It's for creating your classroom accounts. And what it does is it is a tool that will sync with your student information system. So whatever your SIS is, if you've got SunGuard or Dazzle or whatever you might use, the idea is Little Sis would talk to that student information system, and it would be used to create your Google Classroom classes and accounts. So if a new student gets enrolled in your district, boom, they just show up in your Google Classroom automatically. And at the start of the year, teacher doesn't have to go in and create all the classes. It just syncs from the schedules right away. This is one of the programs created by Andrew Stillman, who many of you may know from the past when he was creating add-ons such as Autocrat and Formule and Doctopus. Andrew has moved on to work for Amplified Labs, his company that is creating more of these awesome Google integrations. So this is just a taste of what's to come. I think we're going to see more and more of this where Classroom is integrating with other tools. I know a lot of people have been wondering for a while, will we then start being able to see things like syncing grades, like when you put things in the gradebook in Classroom, will that sync over to gradebooks and third-party tools? I have not seen that yet. Maybe somebody else has, but this is the sort of stuff that encourages me that yes, we very likely will start to see those sort of integrations as well. All right, good stuff. Next up, growth of the Chrome operating system. There's an article about how Chrome OS has now risen to 58% of the market share in K-12 in the United States. So this graph may be a little misleading at first if you don't pay attention. The bottom is this is the rest of the world, and over here is United States. So honestly, we're just focusing on the US part for this. And Chrome OS, we can see, has been growing considerably in the US. From 2014, 38% of K-12 schools were using Chrome OS, to 50% in 2015, to 58% now in 2016 as we finished out the year. So we're seeing really incredible growth in the use of the Chrome operating system in the US. Looks like Windows has been holding pretty tight there, whereas others have been declining a little bit. The growth in Chrome books definitely is accounting for that. As far as worldwide, looks like we're holding, well, we're growing 2%, 3%, 6%. So there's still a lot of room for growth in Chromebooks around the world, but the United States is definitely a leader in that, and I'm excited to see that growth. Next up, Google offering some special pricing on some apps for your Chromebooks. Now, this is not the first time they've done that. Google did this maybe about a year ago with a group of creative apps. This was, let me see, it was WeVideo and, I'm going to forget the other two right now. I apologize. But there were like three of them. I think it was Explain Everything, WeVideo, and something else. And they were part of a package of creative apps. This is now a new set of apps they've packaged together, Fluency Tutor and Listenwise. So again, the idea is most of the time, most stuff for the Chrome OS is free. Most apps are, okay? But not all of them, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, you know, companies have to make money. They've got to be able to create these awesome things. And so a lot of times they might have a free version and then a paid version, or they might just have a paid version. Well, this is an example of some apps that do have a paid version, and Google is doing their best to try to get good pricing for schools on these. In this case, we're looking at two specific apps, Fluency Tutor and Listenwise. Fluency Tutor is from Read and Write, the folks, or excuse me, from Text Help, sorry about that, the folks that do Read and Write, as well as many other awesome tools. And Fluency Tutor, basically, the student is given a piece of text to read from 500 leveled passages. And what the student does is they read it, and it records their voice while the student is reading that. Then the teacher can then play back the student's recording while comparing it against the original passage, and the teacher can put in all sorts of annotations to show where mistakes happened and what those mistakes were, so they can really diagnose where the student is having difficulty in their fluency. So that's a great tool. And then Listenwise basically taps into a massive archive of podcasts, educationally appropriate podcasts that the students can listen to. And while listening to those, they can read along with some information. They have transcripts for those podcasts. And then there's also quizzes that they can take at the end. So this is working on improving listening skills and comprehension from that. So both of these, Fluency Tutor and Listenwise, are a package. At the bottom of that blog post, there's some links to get a little bit more information about how to purchase those at a reduced cost for your school. Next up, the next couple here, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, the next 5. All of these came from a conference that Google ran recently called Next. That's their, I don't know how to describe it because I don't want to say developers conference. I/O is their developers conference. Next is more of their enterprise conference, where they talk a lot to their business customers about new things that are coming out next with Google Apps. And so they released a lot of new information during the Next conference. And this is just a quick dump of some of those things. So for example, one of the things they mentioned is that we're getting some new Hangouts. We're getting Hangouts Meet and Hangouts Chat. Now, there's been a little concern. People get nervous that is something going to happen to Hangouts, or we're going to lose it, because Google has been releasing a lot of other communication tools like Allo and Duo, and you're like, oh, are they going to get rid of Hangouts? No, they've made it very clear that they're going to have Hangouts be more of a focus in the enterprise. Now that works for schools too. We're considered enterprise. So Google Apps or G Suite for education, G Suite for business, that sort of thing. And so what they're doing is just kind of cleaning up and revamping Hangouts, actually improving it, making it a little bit more powerful. Now okay, I guess I have to be careful when I say improve, because yes, there are a couple of features that you lose or some you pick up, so it may be an adjustment for you, so it may not be a total improvement for you. But I guess what I mean when I say improvement is they are trying to make it run better. So Hangouts Meet is basically the replacement for traditional Hangouts. At the moment, I am not using Hangouts Meet for this. This is just a traditional Hangout on air that I'm doing, but I have used Hangouts Meet since it has rolled out. And basically, here's kind of a picture of what it looks like. I can't really kind of show it while I'm in this Hangout. I can't run it in a Hangout. You'll notice it's just a little bit of a cleaner interface. So what you get, instead of having people across the bottom of the Hangout, you get them on the right-hand side. And I think that's probably wise, because most people do have more of a wide screen. And when you got them across the bottom, it was eating a bit into that, and you don't have as much real estate to give away there. It's a little bit easier to use up a little bit of the right-hand side instead. And so the people show up on the right-hand side, and you can expand and push that back over, and you can click on people just like normal to put somebody in the window or mute them or whatever you might need to do. You've got your normal buttons at the bottom: mute microphone, mute video. The present button is what we used to call share your screen. So if you want to do a screen share, that's called present now, and that lets you share your screen. And there's also a link over here on the side you click that will give you some more details about the Hangout, including a link to get to the Google Meet, the Google Hangout Meet. Oh, I don't know what to call it. The Hangout Meet is what we'll call it. So I have used this several times. It is available now. Anybody can use it, and it's clean. It's a nice, clean interface, and it seems to work really well. So the second thing they mentioned is Hangout Chat. That's not out yet. I signed up for the early adopter, but have not received any information on that yet. So basically what it is, it's sort of like it would be like setting up an ongoing chat room that, let's say you're working in a team of 5 or 6 people on a project. You could create a Hangout chat for that team that is a perpetual chat. You can jump in at any time you want, and it's more of a text chat, as you see here in this example. I think of it kind of like Slack. I know it's not exactly the same, but that's what Google's trying to. It's pretty clear they're trying to respond to the growth of Slack and the ability for teams to communicate through that. And so that's what Hangout Chat's going to be. It's going to be more of like an ongoing chat room for a team that they can throw all of their resources, documents, links, and so forth in a stream. That's not out yet, so we'll have to keep an eye and wait on that. There is an early adopter program you can sign up for, though. So that was one of the things we found out during Next. The other one, this one's really fun, is Gmail's getting add-ons. How about that? Awesome. So this was announced at the Next conference, and basically what they're saying, most of us are familiar with add-ons. Add-ons are currently available in Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Forms. And you basically just go up to the add-ons menu and boom, there's your add-ons. Okay. Well, what they've said here is that Gmail is now getting add-ons. A couple of things kind of interesting about this. Well, first of all, the fact that it's Gmail, that's great. That would be very nice. Makes me wonder if this means they're going, I don't know, if they're going to get rid of labs. There are some really neat Gmail labs out there. Not sure if this will have any impact on that or if they'll still let Gmail labs stay there for the experimental stuff. And maybe some labs might graduate to become add-ons. It'll be interesting to see. The other thing that caught my attention, though, is check this out. When they're talking about add-ons, notice they're talking about the desktop for Gmail and the mobile version of Gmail. So this is the first time that we're seeing add-ons crossing over into the mobile space. Right now, add-ons do not show up in mobile for docs and sheets and forms. And so having add-ons being supported in mobile, natively in mobile, it's really encouraging, making me think we're going to see add-ons, being cross-platform all the more. So these are not out yet. Again, this is like just an announcement. They mentioned that they're working with several companies, and they said later this year we will be able to start to see add-ons for Gmail. All right. Next up, Google Vault. This was also mentioned at Next. A lot of us are familiar with Google Vault. Google Vault is the e-discovery tool. Maybe that's the best way to say the e-discovery tool that Google provides as part of G Suite for education. It's free for us in education. For business, they have to pay for it. And what it does is it basically allows a school to archive all of your email and pull it up if there's a records request. That's part of what we have to do in the education business is if somebody comes and says, hey, I need to make a public records request. I need all of the emails sent between your superintendent and, this person between this date and that date. Legally, schools have to do that. Now, there's certain guidelines as to how quickly and how you do it and all that. But the point is you have to provide that information. And Vault has been, oh my goodness, just a wonderful tool for that, to know that all the emails are all backed up, they're secure, and you can say, okay, let me throw in the search query, pull those emails up, dump them out, hand them over to the lawyers, and away you go. Well, we've heard a long time, there have been rumors rumbling about that Vault would get extended to Drive as well. You've always been able to search Drive with Vault, but it wasn't doing the retention. That has changed. So I'll go ahead and pull it over here. If I can find it, I'll grab it on my other screen. Here we go. Drag it over here. So this is Google Vault. If you're not familiar, if you've never seen Vault before, this is Google Vault. It's just at ediscovery.google.com. You can get to it through your admin console as well. The point is, what I need to let you know is that now they've added Drive and Groups to Vault. So you do have to go in and enable it. So if you go into Vault and you go to the retention settings here, you'll see that I have not turned it on yet. This again has just rolled out. We've got it on for Gmail. We always have had that on to keep our messages indefinitely. You do need to go in though and set a default rule for Drive and Groups as well so that it can begin retaining those. Otherwise, if somebody deletes something, well, it's gone. Well, you know how it is. If somebody deletes a Drive file, it's there for 30 days, and after 30 days, it's gone. But here's the thing. Vault is now going to do for Drive what it did for Gmail, which basically means unlimited backup and saving of everybody's Google Drive. If you want, you can come in here and set a retention rule that says indefinitely, and there you go. If somebody deletes a file, it's going to disappear from their drive, but it's not going to disappear from the vault. That file will be there indefinitely. So it's a great thing for e-discovery, but my goodness, this is also just a great thing for cloud backup. So I'm curious. Haven't thought enough about this to really have a strong opinion on what impact it'll have. But I guess the question I would throw out is, will this impact those services people are currently paying for to back up all of their Google Drive files? There's a lot of companies out there that have provided excellent services to allow schools to back up everything in their drive. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, if it's behaving the way that it does with Gmail, I can go in and basically say I want to indefinitely retain everything in Drive, and even if a user deletes it, it still is in the vault and we can pull it back out. So be curious to see what impact that might have on that as well. The other thing I noticed from this is that this also allows you to restore files at any snapshot along the way. So remember, you've got the revision history that keeps track of every change to a file. They mentioned in the article here that this will also let you pull things at a snapshot of any point in time as well. There it is, point in time Google Drive files. So very nice. Excited about that. All right, let's see where we're at. All right, next up, Team Drive. Now, Team Drive is not new in the sense that we've known about it for a while. There's been an early adopter program at Spark here. We were part of that. So I've been using, playing around with Team Drive for a little while. The big announcement is that it is out of beta now, or out of early adopter, and it is now available to everybody. So what is Team Drive? Well, here's the idea. Let me just pull up my drive real quick. It's a mess. I'm sorry, but here's my drive. I'll pull up my drive real quick. So here's the thing. What you guys are going to notice is that in Google Drive, you've got your My Drive as normal. You're now going to have something below there called Team Drives. And basically the idea is this is a way to be able to work together with other people a little bit more easily. So in the past, let's say you needed to work with a group of, 10 or 12 people or 1 or 2 people or whatever on, a project coming up. You've got an ongoing year-long committee, or you've got a conference you're planning for, or whatever it might be. Well, we all know you can share files and collaborate between people, but just sharing individual files gets messy really fast, because every time somebody shares a file, it goes to shared with me, and then you've got to drag it over to your drive. So for years, we've been telling people, if you're going to work with people ongoing, share a folder instead. Don't share a file, share a folder, and then have everybody use that same folder. Drag the folder over to your drive. And so like you can see here in my drive, I've got a lot of folders in there, and some of them have the little person icon on it. So like for our conferences, here's our Spark conference that we do. And so each year we've got a folder for that, and there's a little person on there. That's because several people have access to that folder. We're sharing that folder to share all of those documents. Well, this basically takes that idea one step further. Instead of having to create folders for those projects, you can create what's called a team drive. And it basically gives you a whole new drive inside of Google Drive where all of these resources can be put. So if I go to Team Drives and I click the New button, what it will do is ask me to create a new team drive, and I can give it a name. And then after I give it a name, basically, here's a test 1 and test 2. I just created some, sample team drives. Once you create a team drive, you can then go to the Add Members section, and you can add people to it and give them access to the drive. And there's a lot of different levels. Way more levels than you get when you share a folder. So here you can already see the benefit. If you just share a folder, if you've ever done that, there's really only 2 levels. When you share a folder, it's either view rights or edit rights. That's it. And the view rights, there's not much you can do with that. The edit rights, you can do everything. You can delete files, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Well, this is much more granular. You've got view access, you've got comment access, which is not even available for folders. I mean, you can go in and micromanage the files, but this way you can set it as a default. There's edit access, And then there's also full access. And here's a really important differentiation. Edit access doesn't let you delete the files. It just lets you edit them and upload new files. Full access is where you can actually delete files. So you've got a lot more granularity here, so people aren't going to accidentally delete a file out of the shared folder or drag it out of the folder somewhere else and now nobody can find it. Another really key thing about this is who ends up owning the files. When you drop a file into a team drive, you actually give up ownership of it, and the team drive becomes the owner of the file. Why is that important? Well, people retire, people quit, people move on, things happen. And if somebody leaves, you don't want them, having their files deleted, and their important files everybody needs access to. So if there's something that's really a collaborative file that's important for a project you're working on, put it in Team Drive, and the Team Drive becomes the owner of it, and you don't have to worry about losing it accidentally in the future when that person retires or moves on. Not that you couldn't transfer their files anyway. This is just a little bit more, a little bit easier way to have that happen. So anyway, Team Drives, try that out. Have some project coming up, take it for a spin and see how that works. Excited to see that. All right, next up, this one is again, this is the last one from the next conference. And this is again, just a preview. We can't try this out yet. This is just something that they're telling us is coming, and it's called Drive File Stream. Wrapping my brain around this, my best understanding of this is it's basically allowing you to, as always, store your files in Drive, but open them live on your computer with non-Google programs. So here's what I'm catching from this. So let's say you've got Word documents, or you've got PowerPoint presentations, you've got something else, on your drive besides just a Google file, and you want to be able to work on it locally on your computer. Well, there's a bunch of ways to do that. You can use Drive Sync, you can use Awesome Drive, you can use Google Drive plugin for Microsoft Office. There's a lot of tools, but the idea is this Drive Stream, basically, let me get down to it. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong thing on the screen. I got to get down a little. There we go. Drive Stream, there it is. Or yeah, Drive File Stream. Basically, what it will do is allow you to simply open up a some kind of a folder that's probably going to be, looks like it's going to be on your computer physically. So I think this probably looks like more of a replacement for Drive Sync, but it's not syncing everything. It's just more of a portal, let's put it that way. So you're going to be able to open up this full folder on your local computer, see everything in your Google Drive, double click on any file you want to open, and it will live open that file from the cloud storage and Drive to your local computer, fire up PowerPoint or Word for you, let you work on it, hit save, and it'll save it right back to your cloud storage. And it will feel like the file's actually on your computer, but it never really was. So I think that's kind of the idea, is you're avoiding the risk of everybody downloading, because that's what Drive Sync does. Drive Sync downloads everything to your local computer, and then somebody steals your computer, and then you've got all these company files sitting there or whatever. So it sounds to me like what we're looking at is basically a live, as needed opening up of non-Google files from your Drive to your local computer, so you can work on them, hit save, and they save right back to Google Drive. So that may not apply to folks if they don't do a whole lot with non-Google files, because obviously if it's a Google file, there's nothing to sync. You just open up the file anywhere you're at because it's in the cloud. But if your company or your school or whatever, if you do use a lot of things that are not Google files, still got a lot of Microsoft files out there, this should make it a little less painful to manage that. All right, let's keep going. Next up, this was a pretty big one. Google Classroom is now open for non-education accounts. All right, so Google Classroom we've had now for coming up on 3 years. Fantastic program. We love it. Great way to manage workflows and documents and assignments and discussion boards for your class. However, Google Classroom started off being quite a bit restrictive, understandably so, to only work inside of your school. So you could connect with just the students in your school. Well, then that started to change when they added whitelisting of domains. So you could go and you could say, okay, my school and your school, we're going to whitelist each other. And then you could start having people from other domains start to take classes from, teachers in your domain. And that was great. Well, now we've really blown the door wide open in that Classroom can now even be used by people who do not have Google Apps or G Suite for Education accounts. You can just have a regular old Gmail account now, and you can use Classroom, which is a big shift because Classroom was always very specific just to schools, not anymore. So really, that is really going to open up what you're able to do. Having said that, a couple of things. You will have to go into your admin console to be able to, and I'll go ahead and pull up the admin console here. You will have to go in and set that up. I shouldn't say set it up. You have to adjust the permissions for that. So you will want to go into your admin console. You will want to head to your apps section. You'll want to go into your G Suite section, and you'll want to find Classroom. And once you find Classroom, you're going to see that you've got, is it under class settings? Yes, under class settings. So once you drill down to Classroom and you go to class settings, notice you've got two sections here that you can now make more granular adjustments to. The first one is who can join classes in your domain. So if you create a Google Classroom, who's allowed to join? Is it only people in your domain, basically the way it used to be? Or is it people that have been, is it domains that you've whitelisted? That was what happened, about a year ago, we got whitelisting. Or is it any G Suite for Education user in the world? Don't even have to whitelist them. As long as they're a Google Apps for Education user, that's fine, they can join. Or is it any user at all? Anybody with a Google account, even just a regular old Gmail account. I have upgraded ours so that anybody can join. So anybody with a Gmail account, no problem at all. They can jump into any, they can, if they're given the code for a class, they can join that class. They can enroll in that class. And then going the other direction, which classes can users in your domain join? Do you want to let your students and your teachers join classes from other places? Just your domain, just whitelisted, or any Google Apps for Education class that's out there. And so I've moved ours up to the highest level so that we can have the most flexibility there. So that's something you want to consider doing. And if so, it'll give you a whole lot more flexibility with who can connect to your classes. If you do use your personal Google account, let me see, I'll try to bring up my personal Google account here real quick. I've got a couple of tabs running here, so let me pull this over. Here we go. Oh, nope, I lost it. Here we go. There it is. Here's my personal account. This is my erickurtz@gmail.com account. If I go to Google Classroom now, on my personal account, so this is my Gmail account, this is not a school account, this is my Gmail account, I can now get to Classroom. That was never the case before. It used to say something like, this is only for education domains. So I can come up to the little plus button, and there's join a class, so I could join somebody's class. And there is the create class option. This is still rolling out. At the moment, I think it's still yelling at me saying I don't have access yet, but this is coming soon. Some people I know have been able to. It is rolling out. I have not requested the early access for that. So now that means a lot more flexibility. This could mean maybe your school wants to do some adult ed classes and use Google Classroom for that. Well, you could, as long as people have a Gmail account, they would be able to join your class without having a Google Apps account instead. All right, good stuff. Next up. This one's not real big. Just if you've got kids, be aware of this. If you have Android devices, Google has released a family link tool that lets you manage the device a little bit more for your kids. Like you can see how much time they've been spending in different apps, and you can set like bedtimes when their device shuts down and stuff like that, and pre-approve apps and things like that. Street View. There was a little article about how Google has added some new Street View content for a specific volcano. As cool as that is, the reason I put this in here is just to remind you guys about Street View. A lot of times we think of Google Street View as, oh, that's when I'm going somewhere and I want to see what the building looks like. So I use Street View to kind of see, oh, that's where it is, and I can see the parking a little bit better. That is just the tip of the iceberg with what Street View can do. So Google basically has, as you can see with this picture here, they've taken folks and they've put these 360 cameras on them, and they have sent them all over the world. It's not just that car that drives up and down the road and gives you Street View, which is wonderful. That's really helpful. But for educational reasons, they have put this camera on people and sent them all over the world, mountains and valleys and volcanoes. And so this article talks specifically about how they've now done this for a volcano. And if you go way to the bottom of the article, there is a link to that. If you give a click on that, it'll take you out to that. And here we go. Here's the volcano. I can click on that and see if that comes up for me here. Come on. Oh, I don't know why it's not loading at the moment. I was having the same problem earlier today. Something was blocking it from loading. Here, let me try that again. Sorry about that. It was working better on my other browser, so it might be, I may have a conflicting extension. Sometimes that happens. Let me go ahead and try it on this one and see if it comes up okay. There's the volcano, and yep, there it is. Okay, and so I can go in and I can see, and basically what the Street View recording has done is they've recorded 360 degrees around the mouth of this volcano, and then I can just use, just like Street View, I can click to move around, and it's like I'm walking around the edge of this volcano, and I can keep walking, and as I walk I can move my mouse all around to look at this from every different angle. Now, as cool as that is, really what I was wanting to just remind you guys of is, in case you didn't realize, there are so many things they've recorded with Street View. We've got Greenland, we've got, the Ghana highlights, we've got Germany, we've got Senegal, we've got, Thailand, on and on and on and on. Just if you go to google.com/Street View, so it's just google.com/Street View, so many locations, so many architectural, buildings and ruins, and here's the pyramids at Giza. These are all phenomenal for school because it really puts you in that place. Click on these, go ahead and start scrolling around and walking around. It's like you're there, as best as you can be on your computer screen. So there are so many of these Street View locations. Definitely would encourage you guys to take advantage of those if you've not been doing that. All right. Next up, just for those that use YouTube, I think we mentioned this in an earlier meeting about how YouTube has added what's called end screens and cards to YouTube videos. Just be aware they are now going to discontinue annotations. So for what it's worth, if you're in a YouTube video, I'll just bring up, see if I can pull up my account real quick here. Oops. So basically, hey, we're live, look. Hey, there we are. So when you go into YouTube, I'll just try to grab one here. I won't actually play it. I'll pause there. Normally, when you're playing a YouTube video, you can get these little annotations that pop up on the screen, and those are the old style way of doing annotations. They only work on desktops. They don't work on mobile. And so that was one of the problems. And so what Google started doing was finding new ways to add annotations on top of a YouTube video that weren't the old style way. And so they went with cards. Cards pop up in the top corner and you can click on them. And then they went with end screens. And I've been using the end screens quite a bit. So when you get to the very end of my videos, we should have, there we go. I'll pause that. You'll see I put on an end screen, I put these elements. So you can subscribe to my channel, you can go to my website, you can watch my webinars, you can see other Control-Alt-Achieve videos. The nice thing is these show up on desktops and they also show up on mobile. So basically what Google is saying is, just be aware, guys, we are discontinuing annotations. Now, if you've put annotations on a video in the past, it won't go away. They'll still work. You just can't edit them. You can't make any changes. You can't add new annotations. They are discontinuing that option, which makes sense. Cards and end screens are a lot more flexible. Next up, no biggie here, but video attachments can be streamed in Gmail. So if somebody sends you a video now in Gmail, you can actually play it right there in the message. Google Sites. Hey, we're getting some new updates to Google Sites. We're all excited about that. So if I pull up Google Sites, if you haven't used the new Google Sites, please do. I've got a nice webinar that I did all on the new Google Sites, and talks you through how to create a classroom website with it. They're very attractive. Google Sites looks really nice compared to the classic sites. The big drawback is we're missing a lot of features. Anybody who's used classic sites knows, as pretty as the new Google Sites is, it's still got a long way to go to fill in all these missing features. There's a lot of things you can't do in the new sites that you could do in the classic sites. Well, we picked up just a little bit of new stuff. We now have the ability to layer calendars. And that was a complaint people were having, is if you went into a calendar page and if you wanted to go and insert a calendar, it could only be one calendar. And well, maybe you want to have multiple calendars layered on top of each other. Like, you teach 3 different classes. You don't want 3 separate calendars. You want all 3 of them on top of each other. Didn't used to be able to do that. But now if I go to insert a calendar, I can click on not just one, but as many calendars as I want. So I could choose that calendar, and I could choose this calendar, and I could choose that calendar, and it will layer all of those on top of each other instead of having it just be the one calendar by itself. So that's nice. The other big thing, not a giant big thing, but they mentioned that you can access Team Drive now from Google Sites. So if I'm going to insert something from my drive, instead of just my drive, I can also go to Team Drive. I can grab things from there. All right. And last, Blogger. Blogger is Google's blogging tool. It's what I use for my Control-Alt-Achieve site. So I do that in Blogger. This is done in Blogger. Like it very much. I really enjoy Blogger. I think it's a great blogging tool. They got some new themes. So if you wanted to try out Blogger at some point, but you were hesitant, thinking, there weren't as many modern looking themes for it, they've added quite a few new themes to it that you can choose from to have a much more modern look to your blog in Blogger. For me, I'm not so excited about that because, I'm probably not going to go in and change my theme. What I'm excited about is that Google actually did an update to Blogger, which encourages me, because sometimes I get nervous. They don't see updates to it and you worry, are they going to discontinue Blogger? Are they going to, I can't imagine they would ever do that. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful platform, but it's just, there's not many updates. You just don't see them. So anytime an update comes out to Blogger, that's encouraging to know it's still alive. Google has not forgotten about us. So anyway, so that's it for everything new in the last month. We're going to switch over to Q&A and show and tell here in a second. I'm just going to scroll up and see if anybody has added any questions or comments to that. But hopefully that gives you guys a nice one-stop shop to know all the new stuff that's come out in the last month, as well as some things on the horizon there. So you'll be hopefully better prepared to support your schools with any upcoming needs they have. Looks good. All right, I don't see anything in the Q&A right now, so we're going to move down to show and tell, but I will circle back around to it. If you have a question, please feel free to throw that in the Q&A, and we'll answer that if we can. Same thing for show and tell. If you have something you'd like to share, just go on down to the bottom there and feel free to add some stuff. And it looks like we do have some things added in. Oh, thank you. I did not add those. So some folks have added a few things in. I appreciate that very much. We will take a look at those shortly. I am, again, not going to go through everything in this list. Just going to, pick out some of the key things that we want to highlight for you guys. But let's get started with recent webinars. Now, we try to do webinars each month. Back when Anthony was working here with me, he is retired. For those of you that didn't know, I think most people know by now, but Anthony did retire a few months back. And so without having Anthony here, obviously that's going to cut the webinars in half. And based upon the time of the year and how busy things get, you know, I as well may have to sometimes not have a webinar if there's a lot of other things going on. I was able to squeeze one of them in this month, and that was called Hipster Google, tools you've probably never heard of. And so here is the link to that webinar page on our Spark site. And there's the recorded webinar. Our webinars are all 1 hour long each. And if you go to that page, you can watch the webinar there. Below there, you'll see a few things. I do have all of the tools broken out that I covered in there, but I also did a blog post on Control-Alt-Achieve where I went into more detail. So it may be easier to view them from the Control-Alt-Achieve site. That's fine. You can go either direction, but if you follow this link to the Control-Alt-Achieve site, you'll still see the same video. It's still there, and the slideshow. But what I've done is I've taken each of the 21 tools and actually fleshed them out with some explanation and some screenshots, so you can really dig in a lot more to each of the tools in the blog post. But either way is fine. And then further down below the video, there's also a quiz. As always with our webinars, if you watch the webinar and then take a quick little quiz at the end to prove you watched it, that will generate a PDF certificate of attendance for you to turn in to LPDC. So that was the most recent webinar. You can always go to our tech integration page and go to recorded trainings to see all of the webinars. And I think we're up to 43 of them now. We'll probably have to retire a few of them as they've gotten a little bit older, but we're definitely in the 40s now with the amount of webinars that we have. So as far as that topic though, for that webinar, the whole idea was we're all very familiar with Google Tools. We wouldn't be in this meeting if we weren't. We know docs and slides and sheets and, you know, Drive and all that good stuff. But there are a lot of tools that you might not know as much about. And so that's what the idea was behind this, was to try to look at lesser known Google tools. Now, I guarantee there's going to be some stuff in this list you do know, and that's perfectly fine. But I hope you pick up a couple of new ideas for tools that you were not aware of, or maybe you heard about but never did much with. And so we're not going to go through those right now, other than to say there's 21 of them, and they cover things like Ngram Viewer, Google Scholar, Instant Search Cards, Reverse Image Search, Google Trends, and Google Alerts. Then we do a section more on mapping tools. There's Smarty Pins and Tour Builder. Then I did like some creative tools like Story Builder and Google Fonts, Quick Draw, Toontastic, Google Cardboard Camera, and then canned responses for communication. That's more of a communication tool, canned responses, and then the translation mobile app, some really cool things with that. Share to Classroom tool, Google Cast for Education, and then just some miscellaneous things that didn't quite fit in any category. Spell Up, a spelling game, Google Keep, and some neat things you can do with that. The Office editing extension, and the Google Arts and Culture site. So not going to go through those in any kind of detail here, other than to let you know that that's what we covered. And I would encourage you to either watch the webinar or read through the blog post to find those. As always, remember, you can skip through the video too if you just want to get to the spot that you're looking for in there. It is an hour long for that webinar. So that was our most recent webinar. The next thing down on the list, again, I am not going through all of these. I'm just going to point out a couple of new things. These are recent posts from my blog. A lot of these are actually back from February, since we didn't have a meeting in February. I went ahead and threw those in there. You know, some stuff on differentiation in classroom. For Valentine's Day, we had a magnetic poetry activity with Google Drawings, a fun pixel art activity. That one was fun. So creating pixel art with Google Sheets. Actually did a webinar that month on spreadsheet activity. So if you missed that one, if that one slipped through the cracks, that was last month's webinar. I did using Google Sheets for fun activities for students. So it was like a whole bunch of different activities for different subject areas. Not so much how you as a teacher would use spreadsheets, but how students would use it for learning activities. So check out that one if you've missed that. Did a blog post on creating educational motivational posters with Google Drawings. This one's kind of neat. If you've got vocab and you're trying to have students work on their vocabulary terms, this can be a fun twist on that. I think everybody knows what motivational posters are like. You know, you've got the big picture, you've got the black background, you've got one big word, and you've got some kind of a motivational, you know, statement below it. Well, basically, I used that format and I created two templates, a horizontal and a vertical template. And the idea is you'd come in and click these links and we'll make a copy of that template for you. And then you can change the picture, change the word, change the sentence, change the color if you want. And what the idea is that students would come in and they would pick a vocab term that they're working on, and they would make a motivational poster for it. So here's like alliteration, saying stuff with the same first sound, or petri dish. It's the only culture some people have. Or Hannibal, elephants never forget, and Italy will never forget me. And parallel, because some things are never meant to touch. So the idea is they could use this as a way to make some cool posters related to the vocab terms they're using in class. They could have a little fun with it, maybe try to come up with something a little witty, or it could just be their definition. That's perfectly fine as well. So this would work in any class because we have vocab terms in every subject area. Just come in here and click on the Google Drawing link. If you need any directions, there's a short video. It's 8 minutes. Your kids could just watch that and we'll talk them through everything they need to do to make those posters. And again, I'm not going to hit all these. This one, it's kind of gone past, but you can definitely still do it. We had Dr. Seuss's birthday a little while back, had the World Reading Day, did a 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish sorting activity with Google Slides. So if you've got littler kids, if you teach kindergarten, first grade, second grade, this would definitely fit well with them. It's a Google Slides activity where they can basically drag 1 fishes and 2 fishes and red fishes and blue fishes and all kinds of other fishes into Venn diagrams to learn about sorting. And then they can also create their own as well. So that's a fun activity. We did do another cool one on blackout poetry. I think which day it was. It was earlier this week, the 21st. March 21st was World Poetry Day. And I try to put, actually, I've had quite a few poetry activities on the blog. There's been the random writing prompt generator. It's a Google Sheet that creates writing prompts for poems. And then I've done some magnetic poetry templates with a winter theme and a Valentine's Day theme. This, though, is blackout poetry. And the idea is this is something that people do a lot of times physically. You'll take a book, you'll take a magazine article, you'll take some page of printed text, and then you'll take a big old black marker. And basically what you do, if you've never seen this before, it's really cool. Here, I'll pull up Google Images and just show you real quick. Blackout poetry. So it's really cool. You basically, you know, these are all just, somebody took a page of paper and they blacked out everything except the words they wanted to leave behind. You can get really creative and do some really neat things with it. But that's the idea, is you're using the words that are already there and you're blacking everything else out. So instead of writing a poem where you have to come up with the words, you're looking for some pretty cool terms and ideas in the text. And you could give every student the same text and come up with a different poem from every kid. Well, what I decided to do is do a technology twist on it. So basically it's using Google Docs for blackout poetry. And again, there's a little video here. It's 12 minutes long. That'll teach you everything you need to know about that. But you basically get your original text, you throw it into a Google Doc, and I talk you through what to do to basically go in and highlight the words you want to keep, and then changing the background to black blacks everything else out. So the kids don't actually have to go through and black out every single word. It's kind of reversed. They highlight in white the words they want to keep. Well, first you make the background gray so you can see it. Then after the background's gray, you make the words you want to keep white using the highlight tool and using the format painter. And then you turn the background black and poof, everything else is gone. And you can make some really cool poems that way. So that was a creative writing activity recently. That's it. Those are my new things. Everything else after that is going to be stuff I found from other inspirational folks around the web. So definitely feel free to check out any of those on Control-Alt-Achieve. Now, as far as other stuff that people have been sharing on the web, go ahead and run through a couple of these real quick. So first up, this one is a blog post from Google that I did not put in the earlier category because it's not really news. It's not like an update. It's just a more of an FYI. informational blog post, and it's about how you can edit your pictures better in Google Photos. So this is from Google, and they talk about 6 tips to, if you're using Google Photos, how to use, the white balance and how to compare looks and how to do quick rotates and how to adjust colors and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're a Google Photos user, which you should be, Google Photos is great. Unlimited storage of all of your pictures, easy then to throw them into any Google tool you're using. This is a nice article that explains how to use some of the editing tools a little bit better. Next one, this is really cool. Anybody that's a spreadsheet person, or if you're not, maybe even if you're not, if you're like, I'm kind of scared of spreadsheets, this is a great one. It's called Help My Formula Doesn't Work. Now, this is from Ben Collins. Ben, I cannot say enough about his Google Sheets guru status. He really, really knows his stuff. And Ben, when he puts a blog post out, it is so thorough. It is so wonderfully done. So this blog post he did was basically, what if you're using Google Sheets and your formula doesn't work? So this could be for somebody who's been using Sheets forever, or again, maybe you're new to it and you're kind of nervous about, well, I'm trying to use formulas, I'm getting all these errors. What Ben does is he goes through and he explains every kind of error you could get, value errors, ref errors, name errors, num errors, null errors. And for every single one of them, he says this. So what it's going to look like if you get that error, and here's why that might be happening, and here's how you can fix it. Phenomenal. Just so helpful. So if you've got any errors in a sheet, please have Ben's site bookmarked, especially this page, and it will help you figure out better what you did wrong with that. Next up, another photos thing, backing up your photos. Now, this is something that I do normally, and if you have never done it, Jeremy explains in this blog post how to turn this feature on. So basically, the idea is this, that if you use Google Photos, you can go into your settings and you can tell it to automatically back up and sync any picture you take. So on my phone, when I'm going around and taking pictures at a conference, or me and the kids are hiking, on a trail and we're taking pictures, throughout the day, every picture I take automatically gets backed up to Google Photos. I don't have to worry about it. It just automatically happens. Well, the way that happens is you have to once go into the settings and you got to turn that on. And once you turn that on, then it starts happening. And so basically when I get back from a trip or whatever we've done, all of my pictures are already backed up and they are in Google Photos ready for me to use. And Google Photos even does some fun things. It'll make animations out of them and all kinds of cool stuff like that as well. So Jeremy explains how to turn that on if you've never done that. Next up, a little bit of, let me see, a mash up. Oh, so here's the thing, keep and docs. And actually, you know what? I apologize. I skipped right over that. Yep, I did. There's three or four links here to deal with Keep this time. So I've got mine earlier. I skipped right over it, using Google Keep for grading comments. Then you've got this one, Mashup, Keep and Docs, Instant Photo Transfer. Then you've got, I know I've got at least another one here, adding stickers to Google Docs with Google Keep. And there might be one other that I missed. So here's the thing, and I apologize, I skipped right over that. One of the recent posts I did, so I'm going to backtrack for just a moment, then I'll catch back up to these, was this new Keep integration with Google Docs. So this is something that came out a month ago, and we've all just been kind of playing around with it. Folks have been coming up with so many creative ways to take advantage of this. So here's the thing. If you go to Google Docs, there's now an option. If you go up to Tools, click on Tools in the top, there's now an option to choose Keep Notepad. And when you choose Keep Notepad, what it does is it opens up anything you've got in Google Keep. So, if you've drawn pictures, if you scanned images in, if you've got, whatever it might be, different, to-do lists, anything like that. So anything that you have put in Google Keep, it will pop up over here on the side. And then you can click on it and drag it into your document, or you can copy things out of it. So basically, if you put things in Google Keep, you can now go Tools, Keep Notepad, and it will open that up while you're inside of the Google Doc. So a lot of folks have been thinking, well, how could we use this? Now, this was my take on it. So this is what appeared to me. Other folks have come up with so many other really creative ideas. This was the one that popped in my head when I thought about it. I thought, how about grading? Let's say you're grading a bunch of essays or whatever it might be, student work, and you find yourself wanting to leave comments for your kids, but there's a lot of similarity between them. You find yourself putting the same comment in a lot of times, and you're like, is there any way I could save a little time, make this quicker? And so the idea was you would go to Google Keep, just keep.google.com. From Google Keep, you would create comment banks. So in Google Keep, you can take notes, you can add lists, you can add pictures, you can add doodles, all kinds of stuff. So if you hit the list button, you can create a list. And that's actually what I did over here. So like this is a list of mechanics comments. So if a student is having difficulty on writing in their mechanics, these are all comments that would relate to that. Or here's organization related comments, or here is style comments. Now, I did not create these comments. I have to give credit where credit is due. At the bottom of the blog post, I do mention that these comments are generously provided by Tim Bowers. He has them on his blog, and he stated on the blog they are free to use and reuse, and so cannot thank Tim enough for providing those wonderful comments for people to use. So I did use those from Tim's generously provided list. And so what I did was I created these comment lists inside of Google Keep. Now, if I go over to our Google Doc, and again, I say, oh, I need to leave some feedback here. So I'm going to come in and I'll actually leave feedback on my comment thing here. So I highlight this and I go over to click on the comment button. Instead of having to type in my comment here, instead what I would do is I go Tools, Keep Notepad. And from the Keep Notepad here, I would find the comments that I want to leave. Now, you can use labels, and I did. I used comments for my label to kind of narrow this down. So if I type in comments at the top, it only brings up the comments. It doesn't bring up all the other stuff. But I could say, okay, I need to leave some feedback on here from grammar. So I click on grammar and I say, I need to leave this feedback here. So basically, I just highlight it, just copy, paste, boom, done. Simple as that. I have now added that comment into the document for the student. So the idea would be you could have your whole list of commonly used feedback items saved in Keep, pull them up inside of Docs anytime you need them, and boom, copy and paste them right in. Now, like I said, a lot of other people have run with that idea and said some really cool things. So like here, this one I was starting on and I had to backtrack there, this mashup one. This talks about an easy way to get images into your Google Doc from your phone. And so Kelly Fitzgerald on this blog post talks about how you could use your phone, take a picture with the Google Keep app on your phone. And so that throws it into Keep. And then as soon as you've done that, you just jump on over to Google Docs, open up the Keep integration and drag that picture right in. And her suggestion was like, if you're at a conference and somebody puts up, something on the screen and you want to grab a picture of it because you're taking notes. So you're sitting at a conference, you're trying to take notes. Well, just take your phone, take a snapshot of the screen real fast of what the presenter is presenting, keep on taking notes, give it a moment because it takes, it'll take a minute for your picture to upload to the cloud. And then from your Google document, just go ahead and open up the Keep Notepad, and your picture will show up in the Keep Notepad, the one you just snapped with your phone, and you just drag it over into your document, and now you've got a photograph to go along with the notes you're taking for that session at the conference you're in or whatever it might be. Just saying, what an easy way to quickly get that into there. So I thought that was great. And then the other one, that was Kelly's. The other one's further down. And I just saw this one yesterday, and it's really cute and clever. And it's adding stickers to Google Documents. So for this particular example, the idea is we all love stickers. Who doesn't love stickers? Everybody loves stickers. Well, Stephanie was talking about how, you could still put a sticker on kids' documents. That's okay. We don't have to let that go. And so her thought was create a bunch of stickers and then, yeah, you imagine it, throw them in Google Keep, because Google Keep will allow you to have images. You can add images to Google Keep. And once you do that, let me see, I don't know if I've got, I'll just grab one of hers as an example here. She actually is so kind. She has put together a folder of a lot of these that she has created. So I'll just grab some of Stephanie's real quick here. I'll just grab her Grape Job. Go ahead and download that. And then basically, if I add that to Google Keep, I can go ahead and grab that from my downloads here. Oh, there it is, Grape Job. And so now I'm adding that and hit done. And so now that has been added into Google Keep. And of course, I could label it. You can go to labels here, and that way you could organize it so that all of your stickers are in the stickers label. I'll do that just so you can see. You click more, you click add labels, and I'll just make a label called stickers. And the idea is then I wouldn't have to look at all of my notes in Docs. So if I come back over to Docs, I might have to refresh the page. Sometimes you have to do that for it to catch the new things you've thrown in there. But now if I wanted to add that sticker in, basically I would come here and I would go to Tools, Keep Notepad, and now that sticker should be there. But if I couldn't find them, I could just come in here and type in stickers, and that way it would limit it to just, I would just see my stickers. And that's it. I can come over here now and I can just click Add to Document, and it's going to drop that sticker right into my document. I can throw on wrapping, and I can drag it over to the side or put it wherever. And now, simple as that, I've added a cool little sticker there for the student in the document. So really cool idea to not lose that personal touch. As we use technology more and more, let's make sure we still stay personal and encouraging with our students. So check out her post and feel free to grab any of the stickers she has created. She's going to be adding some more of them over time as well. And you can make them too. Yeah, feel free to create your own. I made one last night to try it out in Google Drawings, and it's real easy to do. And it's a great idea. All right, let's keep on going. Where are we at now? Got to catch back up to you guys here because I scrolled too far up. Next one, just some good search tips. Google does put out YouTube videos every now and then. If you're not aware of that, Google has a channel called Nat and Low, and they usually put out, I'd say, a video maybe once a week, and they're usually pretty short, just a couple minutes long. So just search for Nat and Low or follow this link and you can go to their channel. They did one recently on 5 search tips that you should know about. So these are always educational. Just be aware. This is a great channel. If you go to Nat and Low, you'll see they've got lots of videos here. 5 Google games you should know about, autocomplete, the Google Doodle, all kinds of stuff. So check them out. All right. Next up, when extensions go bad, John Sowash put up this blog post about a bad experience he had with an Chrome extension that got I don't know the whole story, if it was the person who, if it was maliciously done to the Chrome extension, or if the person who ran the extension did it. But the point was he had an extension, and I think it was maliciously done to the extension. He had an extension that got corrupted by someone, and it started causing his computer to behave improperly. And it was Web Paint. That was the extension. He had a problem with Web Paint, and it looks like the owner of the extension realized it. It wasn't the owner who did it. Somebody else had done it to them, and it got pulled from the store and it got fixed. But basically he just said, be aware that extensions are always running. If you've got them installed, they're running up here. And don't be afraid of extensions. They're wonderful. But he said, just be aware this could happen. Somebody could maliciously change an extension to cause it to affect your computer. And if that happens, John talks you through how to identify that, how to go in and delete that extension so that it's no longer running, so that once it gets fixed, you can reinstall it. So not something that happens a lot, but it's an important thing. I'm glad John shared his frustrating experience with us in that blog post. Next up is a fun idea, hiding links. So this one is a collection of a couple of ideas on how, if you wanted to, you might want to hide links sometimes. This is by Heather Sanders. And what we mean by that is if you're making a Google document or you're making a slideshow, and sometimes you don't want students to know that there's a link there. You say, well, why would that be the case? Maybe you're doing Breakout EDU, if you've not played around with those before, doing a digital Breakout EDU where the kids have to solve puzzles and unlock the locks to complete the challenge. And sometimes you want to hide links so that they have to hunt for them. Or it could be that you just don't want kids clicking on something until you tell them it's there. And if you don't tell them it's there, they don't even realize it's there, so they don't get ahead of you. So she just talks about a couple of creative ways to do that. And so some of those involve things like typing in text and then making the text the same color as the background. So there's a link here, but you wouldn't know it unless you highlight over that text to see that it's there. So that's one example. She also talks about making images into links. You can click on a link, an image, click on the link button and make the image become a link. So again, nobody would even think about the fact that that image sitting there is clickable. They might just think it's a picture until you tell them, oh, by the way, you can click on that image and go somewhere. Another example she uses is putting in shapes, like using the drawing tool to add like a rectangle, just floating, an invisible rectangle just floating. She's got one over here on Poe's head and one here on his chest. And so you can just simply put in, use the shape tool to put in a rectangle that has no fill and no border, but make it a link. And so it's like a hot spot to click on. So even though you don't see anything there, if you hover above it, it's clickable. And then I think the last one she mentions here is using regular old text, letting it be a link, but highlighting it, changing the color of it from blue, which most links are blue, changing it to black, and using the underline tool to remove the underlining. So it looks like it's just regular text, but it's also clickable. So again, I thought that was really creative of her to suggest some ways to do that if you're looking for a way to hide links from kids until you want them to know that they're there. Next up, this one is by Ryan O'Donnell. And I don't know if you are familiar with Ryan O'Donnell. He does the Check This Out podcast. And I'm actually going to be on that podcast coming up here pretty soon. Looking forward to getting a chance to chat with Ryan O'Donnell and Brian Briggs. And he had a really neat blog post about using Google Slides to have students explore primary source materials using this gradual reveal method. Now, let me explain this because this one is really cool. I just love what he's doing here. So here's the idea. He says you basically take a picture. In this case, he grabbed this artwork of Manifest Destiny with the westward expansion, and he takes this artwork, and what he does is he puts it into a Google slideshow. And then what he does is he takes the tool, the rectangle tool, insert image, or excuse me, insert shape. He goes to insert shape and he adds black rectangles covering one by one by one until he covers up the entire picture with these black rectangles. Then he uses the animation tool to set animations on these to basically remove the rectangles one at a time. So what happens is when he presents this to the kids, it starts off all black. The whole thing's all black. You can't see a thing. Then as he uses the animation tool, one rectangle will disappear and it will show a piece of the painting. And he'll say, okay, guys, what do you see? What can we discuss? What do you think this painting's about? So they're only getting a corner of it, a few clues. Then another piece disappears. Well, now what do you think about it? Is there any new clues we've picked up? And little by little, he'll work around revealing stuff until finally the center, in this case, would be the last thing that gets revealed when they see the full painting then. So instead of just showing them this painting, or maybe it's it could be a photograph, it could be a primary source photograph. Instead of just showing the whole thing at once, he guides them through corner by corner, having them question and think about that. And he's using an animation reveal basically in Google Slides for that. So love it. I think that'd be great for social studies teachers. I think that'd be great for art teachers as a way to help kids get a deeper understanding of what they are looking at. So I really appreciate that one. That was cool. Oh, here was the other Keep one. I knew there was another one in there. We don't have to go, but here's another one. It's about using Keep to add standards to your lesson plans. So same idea, put all your standards in Google Keep, and then you can add them into your lesson plans. I thought there was a fourth one in there. Next one here is just about creating video on Chromebooks with Adobe Spark. If you have not used Adobe Spark, it is free for you to use. There's a whole bunch of cool tools in it. And one of those cool tools is making videos. Now, it's not the type of video you might think where it's like recorded, live action. It's more of a video where you add individual images and then you can narrate, and you can narrate them, and it will create a video at the end as it moves from image to image to image, kind of like a slideshow, but you're able to narrate it and spit out a recorded video at the end of the narrated images in sequence, and that can be done on a Chromebook. So if you're looking for ways to do movies on a Chromebook, this is another option for that. Speed grading in Google Classroom. Now, this is a pretty clever idea as well. This one comes to us from Mr. Yoder, and he puts out some really neat things. Lance Yoder. Lance really, again, if you're not following Lance, you definitely need to connect with Lance. He does some really neat things. So he was talking about what if you've got to grade a whole bunch of documents in Google Classroom, and you're getting a little frustrated in the amount of time it's taking. You're opening a document, you're reading it, you're closing it, you're opening another one, you're reading it, you're closing it, you're opening another one, you're reading it, you're closing it, and you feel like, wow, this is really taking a lot of time. So this is a suggestion. It's not going to work for everybody because, well, you'll see here in a second, but here's his idea. What he's saying is this. What if all you need to do is very quickly just look at the student documents? You don't really need to mark them up and type in them or whatever. You just need to flip through them. You just need to see what they've turned in. That's enough. You can just look at it and give them a grade. In those cases, here's his suggestion. Basically, he says, go to Google Drive. From Google Drive, go to your Classroom folder. In case you didn't know that, if you have Google Classroom, you have a Classroom folder in Google Drive. There it is, Classroom. And inside of that Classroom folder, you'll have every single one of your classes. And inside of those, I'm going to have to pick, boy, I should have thought ahead of time which one I want to use as an example. I think I'll use my rubric tools one because I know I've got some stuff in there. Inside of each of your classes, there's subfolders for every one of your assignments. And oh heavens, we'll hope this is one that has something. Yes, it does. Okay. And then inside of that folder are all of your kids' documents. So you go to Drive, you go to Classroom, you pick the class, you pick the assignment, boom, that's where all your kids' files are at. Okay. They're in Drive. Yes, you can do this through Classroom, but you can just go to Drive and find them too. So here's what he says to do. Go in here. Instead of opening them, don't double click on them. Don't open the actual documents. Instead, we just want to get a preview of it. So you can right click and use preview or use the eyeball button up here. And what it's going to do is just give you a quick preview of it. You're not actually launching this into edit mode, but real fast, boom, I can just open it up, use the arrow to the side. There's my next students. Use the arrow to the side. There's my next students. Use the arrow to the side. There's my next students. Arrow to the side, there's my next student. And so I could just be flipping through these really quick, and maybe that's enough. Maybe in this case, it's a quick speed grading. I'm not going to leave comments on every one of these. I'm just checking them off that they got them done. I'm just giving them, some points in the grade book real quick. So I could just go boom, 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 and check through these really, really fast without actually going in and opening every one up. Okay, so I thought that's, again, it's not going to work in every situation. If you really do need to type in feedback and stuff like that, okay, that may not make sense for that example, but there may be some times where this could really save you some time. Now, speaking of this, oddly enough, this topic came up in a training I did recently, and I think there are a lot of options for improving the speed when you go to grade. So I might try to pull something together as a blog post in the future on this, because it seems like I'm hearing this a lot. And so I might try to pull something together. One thing I'm just going to throw out to everybody, just to put in the back of your mind is, and I was surprised by this, a lot of folks don't think about using a second monitor. Now, this has nothing to do with Google. This works for anything. It doesn't matter if you're using Microsoft Office or Google Apps. If you have a laptop, you have a video out port, and most of us plug a projector into that, and that's how we show stuff to the kids in class. And whatever's on our screen on the laptop, it's also the same thing as on the screen for the projector. But it doesn't have to be. If you grab like an LCD monitor, and your school may have some extras, so they're not very expensive anymore. LCD monitors are very common. If you plug a second monitor in instead of your projector, so let's say you want to do some grading, or you're at home and you take your laptop home, or you have a laptop of your own. If you plug an LCD monitor into it, you don't have to clone the two screens. They don't have to be the same thing. Here's what I mean. If I drop this down out of the way for a moment, here's my desktop. If I right-click on my desktop, and it's different, okay, if you're on a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook, please understand it won't look exactly the same as far as what menu you use. But if I right-click on my desktop, this is running Windows 10 here. If I right-click on my desktop and I go to Graphic Options, there's an Output To option. And I can either choose to clone my displays or extend them. If I do clone, then yes, what's on my laptop is on the other screen. But if I say extend, now I've got a giant desktop. On one screen, I could put Google Classroom. On the other screen, I could put Google Drive. And so I could be on my laptop using Google Drive and opening up each of the kids' files one at a time. And while I go to grade it, on the other screen, I've got Classroom up and I'm typing the grades in, or I'm typing, some private comments in. And the thing is, you're not minimizing, maximizing, switching back and forth. You've got two screens connected to the same computer, and you can go back and forth between the two of them. If possible, you can even add a third. My desktop at home, I do that with. I have a video card that supports up to 4 monitors. I don't have room for 4, but I've got 3 connected, and I can run 3 screens at once, and it's so beneficial. I've got Gmail in one that I'm reading. I've got a doc in another that I'm writing, and then I've got TweetDeck in the other where I'm replying to somebody on Twitter, and I'm not going up and down, up and down, up and down. So for grading, consider that. If you've never done that before, I would definitely encourage you to think about doing that. That might be a great way to save you some time without anything other than just basically giving you a second screen to move faster through grading. All right, keeping an eye on time. I think we can squeeze in just a few more of these. Let me see. How to differentiate questions with Google Forms. Casey Bell has this blog post that is an older post, but she updated it recently with some new information. And if you've never done this before, this is a great idea. The idea is that Google Forms supports branching. If you've never done that, basically the idea is you can have multiple choice questions or drop-down questions that, based upon what you choose, it actually changes what you see next in the form. You can have multi-pages in the form. And if you pick this answer, it takes you to page 2. If you pick this answer, it takes you to page 3. And the idea is you could use this for basically self-correcting, differentiation. If a student were to take a quiz and answer correctly, great. They move on to the next question. But if they don't answer right, instead of just moving on to the next question, it could take them to another page where it shows them a video saying, okay, you missed that. Why don't you watch this video real quick and now try it again? And so this could be content from your class. In this sense, no, you're not using it as a quiz that's going to give them a grade in the end, because obviously they're trying to correct their things. This is more of a self-correcting type of an assessment. And so she's got a really nice blog post here that'll talk you through how you can set up branching in forms. Thought that was worth mentioning. Next one, very quick, just TCEA from Texas. They're awesome folks down there. I've had the privilege of doing some stuff with them in the past. They've got a nice infographic here on 10 Chrome tips and tricks. So check this out. There's just some neat things you may not have known that you can do with Google Chrome, and this puts them all in one quick place for you. All right. This is one from Alice Keeler. Alice is always putting out great stuff. This is a fun activity where she uses conditional formatting for self-checking spelling tests or spelling practice. So the idea is what you do is you create a Google Sheet where you put in a whole bunch of spelling words. And then on another tab, she has set up some conditional formatting that basically Anytime a student types anything in on this tab, the conditional formatting checks to see, does it exist on the other tab? And if it does exist, it colors in green. If it's not on the other tab, then it doesn't color in green, meaning it's not one of your spelling words or you've misspelled it. And so she's got a template here you can use. You can just click right here and you make a copy of the template, put in your own spelling words. It's just another fun way for kids to practice their spelling words with getting instant feedback. So they don't have to wait for you to give them the feedback. They can tell right away whether or not it's right. Let's see, we did that one. Now these next ones I did not put in, so I get to learn with you guys now. So we have a collection of Google Map tools, how-tos, tips, and tricks. It's Anthony. Oh, Anthony, you just put the picture in. Oh no, you may have to fix that link. That link is, heads up, Anthony, the link is going to the image, not to the page. I'll give you a chance to go in and fix that, Anthony. Although I can probably find it if I try hard enough, but I know Anthony will go in and fix it. So although Anthony has retired, I am so happy to say he appears to be in our document with us today. So thank you, Anthony, so much for being with us today. And Anthony has thrown in some great resources here. So we'll come back to that link here in a moment. Here is Google Search's 200 ranking factors, the complete list. I have not seen this blog post before. This appears to be a blog post that explains how Google figures out what shows up when you run a search. Now that's really valuable for our students because we really need to teach them that digital literacy, that when you run a search, why do you get things you get? You know, can you always just trust the very first thing at the top? If not, what should you be looking for to make a good decision about that? What things might influence a page? Why would it come up to the top? Wow, I had no idea there were that many things that looked at. That is crazy. So apparently there are over 200 things that can affect what comes up from a search as far as the ranking goes. That is stunning. I never would have thought there were that many things that went into it. Now I know this is somewhat of a moving target because Google says they are constantly adjusting what they call page rank, how they figure out what pages to show. So this may not be exactly, you know, always accurate. There may be new factors and others, they may move around in order, but this could be a really great way for kids to have a better understanding why things show up when they do so that they can critically evaluate the resources they're finding. Next up, Google Search Results Types, a visual guide. And I've not seen this one either. This talks about the different types. Very helpful. So when you run a Google search, all the different things that show up on that search page, what do they all mean? You know, what's this up at the top? What's this thing here? What's this over here? So this is great. I love how this breaks this down so nicely. It shows you anything with an A is an ad. So there's an ad here. There's an ad over here. There's an ad down there. There's an ad over here. Anything with K is knowledge graph results. So there's knowledge graph results there. And on the side, those are what I call like instant search cards, but knowledge graph is probably the better term for it. L, the local search results. So search results because it knows where you live. F, featured snippets. Yes, Google will sometimes pull out an answer for you, thinking you might benefit from that direct answer. And then the actual results. Down here, we actually start with the actual results. Now, I don't see all this every search I do, so keep in mind you may not. I mean, this is like a perfect storm search. It's like showing every possible thing that could happen. That's not always the case. I think the search was just for the word Beirut. If I do that, I'm going to assume I'm not going to see quite as much stuff. So boom, right away, there's my organic results immediately. I get to them right away. So I'm getting some other stuff mixed in further down, but so your results will vary, but wow, that's great. That's a really nice way to see all of that information in one place. Very good, again, to help students understand search results. And I'm going to bet Anthony has had plenty of time to fix his link now. And let's see. This is a link for Anthony's collection of Google Map Tools, How-Tos, Tips, and Tricks. So Google Maps, if you've not been taking advantage of that, you absolutely should. Those are two of the Google Map tools actually showed up in my Hipster Google webinar that we talked about earlier. I covered Tour Builder and I covered Smarty Pins, just two of the many awesome tools that are out there. Anthony has put together a great document that apparently is now up to 39 pages long of Google Maps resources. And so as you go down through here, Anthony has collected so many tips and tricks on how to use different Google tools and what are all of those different Google tools are. So if you're looking for anything on map-related resources, this is a fantastic one-stop shop to pull all of that up. And it does look like the document is 48 pages long worth of resources there. So although you're not here in person, Anthony, I thank you so much for being here virtually today. And I think that's about getting us to the end here. I'm going to scroll back up and see. Oh, we did get some Q&A in there. Awesome. Let's see. Classroom is not available for Google business accounts yet. Yeah, I am not aware of the rollout for Classroom as far as how quickly it will get to everybody. All they've said for sure is that it is available for non-EDU, meaning my personal Gmail. So I'm not sure what effect that might have on Google for Business. So I apologize. I don't know the answer to that. Not sure about Google Business accounts. Here's Anthony throwing in his new website. So yes, Anthony used to have the Web Hoarder site on the Spark site. It has now been moved to ztlearn.com. So if you're wondering where Anthony's resources are, they are now at ztlearn.com. And it's very similar to what he had when it was on the Spark site, but it has grown even larger. He is continually adding new resources to it all the time. Next question, has anyone used Clever badges for Chromebooks? I have not. If you're not familiar with that, that was something that, I just pull it up real quick here, Clever badges, Chromebooks. This was something that came out back when we did Edu on Air, Google's Education on Air, that day. That would have been back in the fall. They announced some new updates, and one of them was about using Clever with Chromebooks. And the idea was, I don't know if we've got a good picture of this here, but the idea is, oh, you're not going to be able to see probably from this picture. Let's see if there's a better picture here somewhere that we can see this a little bit better. The idea is that students would, there we go, students would get like a name tag. And so this would be, think maybe, younger kids, pre-K, K, 1, 2, maybe, where logging into a Chromebook could be a little bit more of a challenge. Basically, they would be able to create name tags, or you would create name tags that have a QR code on them that's specific to that student. And the idea is you would go up to the Chromebook, and instead of having to type in your username and password, using the Clever app that would be, launched on the Chromebook when it boots up, they would basically just use the webcam to scan that QR code, and it would directly log them in. That's it. They just walk up, kind of swipe the, put the QR code, put their name tag near the webcam so it sees it, knows who they are, boom, that's it. They're logged in. So that's what the question is about. Somebody says, we just did a demo with the company at Perry Local, and it looked incredible, surprisingly affordable. Oh, thank you. So we're hearing from Perry Local Schools that they did a demo with Clever, and the feedback is good. Especially the cost. If it is surprisingly affordable, I'm really glad to hear that. So no, I have not myself done anything with it, but I'm glad to hear that we've got some local feedback on that looking like a good option. Spreadsheet activities for all subjects webinar is a must watch. Okay, Well, thanks. Thanks for the endorsement. I must say, I definitely got a lot of inspiration from Anthony on that one. Anthony has always been a giant proponent of spreadsheets, and many things he has shared in different trainings. I built on and took a twist on and added some things too. So he was a great influence to help me put that webinar together. All right, guys, let me see. Is that it? Has anything else popped in? I don't think I see anything else. So let me just do this. I'll give everybody a minute here. If you've got anything else to add to Q&A or show and tell, I just want to do a very quick wrap up here to remind you that you can always access this information at google.apps.spark.org/user group. That's the web page where you can find each month our live video link, which becomes the recorded link. It's really the same link. You can get the meeting agendas for each of those. I would encourage you, if you did not get a chance to sign in, don't forget in the important links, we do have a Google form linked there to sign in. That way we can track how many people attended the meeting. I use this information to generate PDF certificates of attendance to send out to you so you can get contact hours as a professional meeting for this. And I also use the numbers of people to send into Google. I let them know how many people were part of the meeting. So whether you were here live or watched it recorded later, please do fill that out if you have not done so yet. If you've never joined Google Educator Group of Ohio, under the updates, there is the link to GEG Ohio. Please consider joining our community at GEG Ohio. And other than that, please stay plugged in with all of our upcoming events. You can find those at our tech integration site, ti.apps.spark.org. And you can also connect with all of my updates on my Control-Alt-Achieve blog. And I try to put a couple of new blog posts up each week, typically about 2 a week. You can find all of those there, as well as all of my collected resources on the resources tab. And I've even broken out my specific webinars onto the webinars tab here, but they also show up on the tech integration, the Spark Tech Integration site as well. I'll do one more scroll down to see if I missed anything that somebody typed in. And if so, I apologize if I am missing something, maybe highlighted in yellow so it jumps out at me so I can see it, but I'm not seeing anything else at the moment. So again, I just want to thank you guys so very much. Our next meeting should be April 21st. Well, as always, check before you set the time aside as we get closer if I need to make adjustments. I will always put the new date if it does, but at the moment that's the plan, is April 21st. And then again in May, and we're not sure in the summertime. We don't necessarily run these as much in the summer, so we'll wait on those dates to see if that ends up happening as well. But thanks so much, guys, for being with us today and taking the time out of your schedule, whether it's live or recorded later. And don't forget, if you're watching this recorded later in the future, just in case you didn't know this, don't forget, you can speed up YouTube videos. You don't actually have to watch it at 1x speed. Just as a quick reminder to you guys, if you have a long, I do this all the time. If you say, this is a long video, all you have to do, we'll go to last month's or January's meeting. I won't actually play it here, I'll pause it. All you have to do is go to a YouTube video, go to the gear in the bottom right corner, give a click there, and there's a speed option that if you click on, you can speed it up. I watch a lot of videos at 2x speed because you can hear way faster than people can speak. You can process that way quicker than people speak. So you can move through these things obviously a lot quicker if you need to, but you can also slow them down as well. So for what it's worth, you know, whether you watch this live or whether you watched it later, we appreciate you taking the time to do so. And take care, and we'll be back in touch next month.